Welcome to Peppershock Media's Marketing Expedition podcast, keeping you up to date with the latest in marketing and advertising. Now here's your host, Ray and Drew Allen.
Welcome to the Marketing Expedition podcast. I'm Ray Allen.
Hello, I'm Drew Allen.
And we are with Peppershock Media. And today we're going to talk about content marketing.
What is it?
And why is it important for your business to utilize content marketing?
Well, I can tell you a lot of reasons why it's important, but Ray, why don't you start out and tell people what it is? It's a jargony marketing word, phrase that everybody keeps hearing, and it's not new, but it's important to talk about.
And really what content marketing is, it's about getting the right information to the right audience at the right time to help build your brand and your bottom line, and to foster relationships that can not necessarily sell or, talk about your product and service in such a way that is all salesy, but it's more about involving the creation of content, things like infographics and slide decks or PowerPoints or SlideShare or any of those types of things in visuals that will help get content about your product or service that's not necessarily explicitly promoting it, but it's intended to stimulate interest in the product or service that you have to offer.
So we should probably back up and marketing branding 101 explanation this. Your brand, as a lot of people seem to get it a little bit confused, your brand is not your logo.
Not just your logo.
Your logo is a representation, a visual representation of your brand, but your brand, the brand experience is everything tied to your business or organization and how your customers, clients, potential clients, vendors, partners, the rest of the world, how they perceive and interact with you. So your brand is when a customer comes through the door, how are they greeted? When a customer has maybe a complaint or a question online, how do you respond? How quickly do you respond? Every interaction that somebody has with your brand, your packaging, if you sell a physical product or your business cards or any collateral you put out there.
It's how all of the senses can be seen about your brand. Even when we went to the M&M store in Vegas, we walked in and we smelled the chocolate smell.
They pump it through the air duct.
Yeah. And so everything that you experience with the brand, not just the visual elements to it, but how people will feel about your brand.
So that might be really basic, and everybody listening to this might already know that, and I may have just spend a couple minutes telling you things you already know. But we wanted to establish that up front, that you are trying to set yourselves up as an organization, as a brand, as the experts. And so content marketing, like Ray explained, is putting information out there so that when your client is searching for whatever it is that you do or sell, or your brand specifically, they can find information and educate themselves. Because, again, not a new theory here, but consumers, clients are way more educated than they ever were. This isn't the days of only being able to order out of the Sears and Roebuck calendar, your catalog, because that's what was available and that's what was being preached down to the consumers. That paradigm has completely flipped, and it did a long time ago. But just keep that in mind as you're thinking about content and what content you're putting out there. Your customers, your clients are very smart.
And creating a content calendar and a strategy and a plan of how you're going to implement it and release it. Some of the things that businesses are using today in utilizing content marketing is, of course, social media is probably the number one way that content marketing is getting dispersed, is through all of the different social media, and also article posting, or even doing in-person events is content marketing. Being able to share and show and tell about your product or service or your organization or your cause. We have people utilizing email newsletters and case studies or even white papers on how things have been successful with their service or their product. And of course, blogs. Blogs are a huge way to get and disseminate your content. And then webinars and podcasts, just like now. By doing webinars and podcasts or webcasts or vidcasts, those are other ways to be able to present yourself as an expert in your field and being able to share and show what it is that you know. And then you can also promote your content in traditional media, traditional being
TV, radio, print.
newspaper, magazines, those types of things. And we were really big on being able to integrate traditional with social media and all the new ways of doing things digitally. And they're not so new anymore, but I think being able to utilize your content in multiple different ways with multiple different uses is a very good thing. Microsites or splash pages, or just having pages that are specific to a type of content or service that you have to offer. Print newsletters, believe it or not, are actually still happening. Snail mail is not dead, and there are ways now with direct mail that you can integrate digital and direct, so snail mail and email, and utilizing PDFs are a great way to be able to integrate everything. And I actually, in another webinar that I did, I interviewed a gentleman from the United States Postal Service, and he introduced us to the idea of being able to utilize direct mail pieces, but now people can actually see what's in their mailbox, their snail mailbox, before they actually receive it, because they can get it in their email inbox. So looking at their mail in their inbox so that they know it's going to be in their mailbox. And there are reasons for this. So if you're going to go on vacation, or you're going to do, you're going to put your mail on hold, you can actually know what mail is on hold. Or if you're really waiting for that check in the mail, you might actually know that it's really, truly in your mailbox.
I love getting checks in the mail.
Yeah, me too. Other ways of content marketing, utilizing research reports, or utilizing some data-driven content marketing, utilizing the data that we have available to us now in Google Analytics and, the dashboards that you can use to see how you're doing and what's working, what's not working. Using digital magazines is kind of a fun way to get content out there that's more cost effective, because you're not having the print cost.
So, Ray, would you back me up on this? I think you probably will. I hope you will. What do you think the biggest piece of advice for people putting together content would be? Do you think they need to have a strategy and a plan behind their content?
Why, yes, Drew. I think they should.
That was a little bit of a softball.
Yeah. Okay. Utilizing a strategy and a plan, and just really recognizing what has worked for you, and not changing away from what's working, but maybe modifying it to make it even better and have different iterations of things that could even go better. And knowing when you're going to release the content, and recognizing things that are going to sort of the residual effects that'll go around that. And then what is the content? What is the message? And having a lot of time spent on understanding the messaging and who your audience truly is. And so thinking about the personas of who you're wanting to attract.
So here's something that I just thought of. One of our clients that we work with, when you said, what is the content going to be? Sometimes your customers will kind of help you decide what that'll be. We work with a restaurant, and they have primarily burgers and fries. And so they recently we put out a post, and we thought, this will be kind of a shot in the dark. We'll see how it goes. Put out a post about being able to order bunless burgers. And basically all the veggies go on the bottom, and your protein, whether it's turkey, bison, beef, vegan patty, whatever, goes on top. And it looks like a nicely presented salad. And that post just went through the roof, and we got tons of comments. And on the flip side, a couple weeks later, we look at sales, and lo and behold, we're selling more bunless burgers. And that content came about because somebody said, hey, do you guys offer this? So that's a good example of kind of being able to put information out there that, it might be a unique product that you offer that maybe you don't do a ton of, but you can kind of test the waters by putting it out in a blog post, in a video for social media, whatever.
And making it mobile friendly.
Yes.
Thinking about, responsive design in your content strategy and how people will consume your content. Because the consumption of content is beyond what we would have ever imagined, just 10 years ago. And we have so much access to new information, and people, before they buy, they know what they want, what color they want it to be. They know exactly everything about it. And then when it's time for them to go to the salesperson, they can say, I want this, this, and this, and I want this, this, and this. Whereas before, the salesperson said, you need this, and this, and this.
As long as the information is out there.
Right.
As long as you as the business, the marketer, the organization is putting relevant content out there on a regular basis.
Yep. And it actually, websites are truly 24/7 salespeople for you in a way, because that is where the content and information comes from. Because it used to be, like you were saying earlier, back in the day, but, you would go to Sears or wherever, and the salespeople would be the ones educated to tell you all about the different features and products and everything that is there. Well, now you can look it up and understand it before you buy it and see if, what kind of reviews are on that product or service that's there. YouTube. Yeah, YouTube's huge for kind of finding what you want. And, all of the Google reviews that are out there, or the Yelp reviews if it's a restaurant. All of this content people are utilizing to make their buying decisions much, much different than they used to.
So I'm going to plug ourselves a little bit. We just threw out probably a dozen different tactics and outlets, media outlets, to get your content out there. And if it seems overwhelming and impossible to do, Ray, again, throwing a softball, you think this might be a good fit for hiring Peppershock to do?
Of course. And we can kind of help augment your efforts. If we are hired as a complete marketing solution where you want to utilize our team as a whole marketing team, you can. Or maybe there's particular projects that you'd like us to take on to start, and then we grow to do more. But the idea is just understanding the strategy and the plan, and then really truly having the resources and capability to implement the plan. And that's might be where we could come in and help to implement what we're doing. And besides that, we've had some success with some of the clients that we've worked with most of them. So we want to share and show and tell that success with you. So I think, just depending on what you're trying to accomplish, if there's some things that you can do on your own, that's great. But we also recognize that, we're the ones who are the marketers. And if your product or service isn't necessarily being a marketing company, then yeah, sometimes you do need to lean on others to help you. And that's to take you to the next level, really. That's where we can come in and help do that. We have content writers. We can write the content. We can produce the videos. We have a design team that can create the graphics, if it's infographics or if it's graphics that go in the videos. Maybe it's the Facebook cover you need. We want to try to keep your brand and your brand experience that people would have with your brand consistent across what we're doing, and then implementing the strategy of how that content is released and shared and consumed by your ideally target customer.
And the other great thing about doing all of this content, producing it and getting it out there online, is that you can see, and a lot of times in real time, who is reviewing, who's looking at your information. Maybe not necessarily the exact person's name and address and social security number, but you can get a pretty good idea of the demographics of who your audience is. What are they interested in? What posts did they like and share the most and comment on, and what what pages on your site are they visiting, and really narrow down the types of content you're putting out there. And it's a good way to it's a good, quick, and cost-effective way to test messaging.
Right. And the other thing too is just with the strategy of kind of the tactics that you want to take. I mean, there's just so many different tools out there now. And because people, if they're on Facebook, they fill out so much information about themselves and we can filter and get right to them. Or LinkedIn has a lot of, title targeting that we can do, or just a number of ways that we can reach the right people and the right audience. And we've had a lot of practice doing it now. But the other thing to think about too, and the benefit with content marketing is your search engine optimization. And so with SEO, by keeping your information on your website fresh, search engine optimization, when people search for your company or the keywords that you have that's in, kind of ingrained in your website, keeping content fresh is really a great tool to help with SEO. Something else to consider with your content marketing strategy is how you want to convert your leads into sales. Because remember, content marketing is not necessarily being all salesy, but it's more about piquing interest in your product or your brand. And so the things that we can do now is just track all of the analytics. And there's so many different ways now that we can understand who's integrating and who's interacting with your brand. And so Drew is able to look at the Google Analytics and track that on, our websites that we're building for clients, and look at how things are, increasing or maybe decreasing based on the different things that we're trying and doing and understanding. And as we do different iterations, we get better and better at it every time. Through the various different client projects that we've worked on, some of the things that we've gotten to do is be able to produce video and utilize different tools and tactics to track and do annotated links and all those types of things. Drew, can you explain an instance where we were able to really help and benefit a particular client?
Yeah, so a client that we started doing video for, they had been doing a lot of their own video, just quickie shooting on cell phone.
With their iPhone.
With their iPhone, which there's a time and place for that. It's not necessarily terrible all the time, but once we started working with them and putting in a bit higher production value, editing, music, lighting, miking them up so you could hear what they were saying,
and,
thinking about the messaging,
graphics.
The first video we put out for them in social media, they grew over the last few videos that they had produced themselves about 800%
it was phenomenal
in views. I can't take full credit for that, but I because they are managing their own social media, but I would say that because the quality of the content was professional and more polished, I do believe that had a bit to play into watchability and how many times it got shared, and
also being able to do sort of video SEO. We all know about SEO for websites, but video SEO and being able to, tag it and do the annotated links and understand, how people can look at the next video, and you encourage people to do that on YouTube or, any of the other platforms out there. But I think that had a lot to do with it as well, right?
Yeah. Well, and you can use YouTube as a great way to build yourself up as the expert. I mean, content marketing, like we explained before, is about putting information out there so that people can find out more about you, what you do as an organization, what your service or product is, and they can start to build their own trust in your brand, which once you build that trust and loyalty, you may have customers for life. Using YouTube to produce series of videos where you're offering tips and tricks and tactics and just genuinely being interested in helping people. There's a guy, he goes by, I think his channel name is the Idaho Painter. He has grown a huge following, and he's essentially, he's a commercial painter. He gets paid to paint interiors, exteriors, but he also just likes teaching people how to paint for themselves. And by doing so, he's putting out this information, he's growing a following, and he's now kind of using that YouTube expertise in that channel to drive business towards his commercial, business, because people, while they may want to do it themselves, eventually get to a point where they're like, man, I just got to hire this guy because he's the expert.
Right. And that's true. I mean, same for us. I mean, we have knowledge and expertise, and sometimes people can do things on their own, like utilizing the iPhone to shoot their own footage, which, there, like you said, there's definitely a time and a place for that. But, sometimes when you step it up a notch and you get more professional about it, you're going to be able to utilize the tools that we've learned to help promote the video. I mean, it's one thing to produce it, but if no one sees it or watches it, then you've kind of failed. And so the tactics that we can take to do that, utilizing the annotated links, utilizing ways to convert and track the conversion, and really have a results-driven strategy in place. And then going back and looking at what you're doing. Is it working? Should I stop this? Should I start this? If there's something new that I should be doing, or, thinking about your content strategy on a regular basis, and then having that content calendar and following it as much as you can. That's what we help do.
So if you think about content marketing kind of as this big umbrella, you have email marketing, you have social media, you have YouTube and video series, and you have all these different tactics and media outlets. And even within social media, you have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. They all have their best practices. They all have different processes that work better for others. So if you want to start working on tackling content marketing, I might suggest picking one of those media outlets and getting really good at creating that editorial calendar, writing the content, recording the content, getting it out there in the world. And once you have a pretty well streamlined process going for one, then start tackling the other, because it can be incredibly overwhelming if you don't.
And there's lots of software tools, or I guess not software, what do we call them now? Apps. Applications that you can utilize. I know HubSpot or Marketo. There's several out there. If you just Google, content marketing dashboard or content marketing applications that can help you. But it's something that is really, one of the reasons why is that we know that consumers spend an average of 79 days conducting online research before buying, and that's from Marketo. And then 81% of shoppers research online before they even set foot in the store. And so, especially now with online buying and not even necessarily having to set foot in a store, we definitely want to keep all of our content fresh and available and accessible, because we know that the average buyer, they will guide themselves through about 60 to 90% of the sell process before they even contact the brand or the salesperson to buy. So they are basically selling themselves on the product or service. And so you have to have this information readily available to them, because if you don't and your competitor does, guess what? You just lost the sale.
We don't want to lose sales.
No, we don't. So content marketing really is just basically, it's our response to being able to integrate this new relationship-based buying and buyer-driven, data-driven market. And that's really where you have this strategy in place to help set yourself apart from your competition.
Well said.
Well, thank you for joining us on this Marketing Expedition podcast. I'm Ray Allen with Drew Allen. We're the owners and founders of Peppershock Media. We've been in business now for 14 years, since 2003, and we enjoy working with our clients and building brands and their bottom line.
So remember, in everything that you do, as we do here at Peppershock, remember to disrupt, connect, and inspire. So make sure you subscribe to our podcast. We're going to try to get these out as often as possible. Ray's webinar series, you can register at peppershock.com/webinars. She does those every second Thursday, and they're free. And she gives away tons of great content. And if you can't make it, it is a live webinar. If you can't make it, register anyways, and you'll get the recorded link in your inbox, and you can watch it at your leisure.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. And until next time, we'll see you then.
Adios.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Expedition podcast. Find more online at peppershock.com.